Hello, all my joyful creators and all of my Longmire fans. Welcome to Funday Monday, part 27 of the Longmire Blanket. Today, we are going to finish all the pictographs in this big section of this blanket. And so today we're going to finish by adding one more arrow pictograph to our blanket. And as you saw in the intro, our colors today were chosen by Roseanne Alexander, and she chose number 8, and on my chart, number 8 is the bright yellow. Then Kelly chose number 11, which is white. And since the base of my section is white, white is not going to show up on white. So I have chosen to substitute white for my number 9 color, which is black. So I have it right here. And then Mare with Runaway Red chose number 1, which is the beige buff on my chart. And then Charlie chose number 5, which is Patty Green. And then Penny with Crochet Adventures chose number 12, which is purple. And then Charlie chose the last color, which is number 6, and it is peach. So I have gone ahead and I've cut my little strands that I need. And the last time we did this on the first arrow, we cut our strips 56 inches, and it was really a little bit too much. So I shortened it a little bit so we could save some yarn. And I did it, instead of 56 inches, I did 50 inches. Now, remember 36 inches is a yard, and then I just did a little bit over a yard, not quite a yard and a half. All right, so if you will, go ahead and get your 6 colors ready, get them cut out, and we will go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video as well and get the blanket onto the craft table. Okay, so when you have your first color on your darning needle, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to this side of the dream catcher, and when you get to the last X at this long row right here, okay, you're going to put your darning needle into that bottom left corner of that last X of your dream catcher. And we're going to count down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm just running across and making sure it's even with my other arrow, and it is. Now we are going to go 12 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? And that's where we're going to start with the new arrow. So I'm going to hold that spot, and I'm going to come on the underneath side. And the hole that we have gone into is going to be the bottom right corner. Again, make sure. I apologize. That was my husband Colin on his way home from work, and I am not going to worry about going back and editing that out, so please forgive me. So make sure you leave enough of a tail for you to weave in. And again, the hole that we have come into is the bottom right corner. So we need to go up to the top left corner to start this X. And then we're going to complete the X by coming into the top right corner and going down into the bottom left corner. All right, now we're going to kind of do like we did on the dream catcher. Just to get started with our arrow, we're going to do half of our X's going up, and then we're going to come back down and then complete the rest of this color portion of the arrow. So in order to do that, we are going to come right here. I'm going to grab my tail on the back and hold on to it so it doesn't get caught up in everything. We're going to come to this top left corner, and we're going to go over 1. And when we do that, we're going to go ahead and pull through and go into the top right corner of that one. Okay, and we're going to do that 5 more times. All right, so now we're going to go to that top left corner. I'm trying to hold this so you can see it, but I got all this extra material up here, so it's making it a little bit difficult. And then we're going to go over 1 and then pull up into that bottom left corner and go into the top right corner. And yeah, my tail's getting a little mixed up in here, so let me try and pull it out. And then I'm going to make sure all my stitches are flat. There we go. And going back over into that top right corner. And I'm going to do the same thing again. And then go over 1 from the top left corner. So when we're finished, we'll have a total of 1 complete X and 6 half complete X's. So I'm going to go over to that top left corner, go over 1 more, because each time we're doing this, we're actually creating the X 1 space over. And then come into that top right corner. All right, go 1 over to the top left corner of that X, go over 1 more, coming up what will now be the bottom left corner and going into the top right corner. And I'm just looking, my little tail is getting caught up in all of this. Okay. And let's see, we've got our 1 completed X, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1 more to do. So we're going to go over 1 from where we just came through, and that's going to be the top left corner of that X. And we're going to go over 1 more, which is now going to be the bottom left of this next X, pull it through, and then go into what will be the top right corner. All right, and now that gives us 6. So now we're going to make the rest of our X's, half of our X's coming back down. So come into this top one, into the top left corner, and then go down into the bottom right corner. Okay, then we're going to go diagonal across to the next X, and we're going to come up into that bottom right corner and take it back to the top left. And now we're going to come into that bottom right corner, which is also the top left corner of the next X. And again, I'm just going to pull my tail out. It's a little bit hard when you first get started. Okay. And it looks like I have gotten my tail caught up. So I'm just going to get it uncaught here. And there we go. And then pull my stitches back down. All right. Now, when I pull that upwards, it should be out the way because we're moving back, going in a downward motion. All right, so now I'm in that top right corner or the bottom right corner. Okay, excuse me. In this X here, I'm either in what you can consider the bottom right corner or the top left corner, and we're going to go down to this bottom right corner. And we're just going to keep working our way to finishing those X's. And then we have one more to do. Okay. All right. My little tail continues to want to get caught up. And I'm going to fix it so it's loose because I want to be able to have it to weave in. There we go. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing just like we did on the other side, and we're going to come back and go this way. All right. So we're going to come all the way to this bottom left corner of the new X, or this last X, and we're going to go over one, and we're going to come up into what is now going to be the top left corner. And once we get going, that tail will just start to stay out the way. And come into the bottom right corner and go into the top right corner and then the bottom left corner. And we're going to do this 5 more times. So just go over one and come down into that bottom right, go into the top right, and go into the bottom left. And once again, we're going to come over one. Whoops. Wrong over one. We're going to come over one from that bottom left corner and go down to the bottom right corner and go into the top right corner and then to the bottom left. From the bottom left, we're going to go over one, and then we're going to go in down to the bottom right, come through the top right and the bottom left. From the bottom left, we're going to go over one, and we're going to go to that bottom right, come through the top right and into that bottom left. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need to do one more. So come over one from that bottom left, go into the bottom right, come through the top right and through the bottom left. And there we go. Our X's should be lined up right over each other, and they are. And that completes that color. All right. Again, you have a little bit of yarn left over, but again, I always would rather have more than not enough. And then just like we did before, we're just going to weave in our ends. And I just come up underneath a couple of those top strands of the white and the yellow. And then once I've done that for a little bit, I just go back in the same direction that I originally came. Then grab my scissors and cut that tail off. All right, so go ahead and weave in this tail and get your next color on your hook, on your needle, and I will meet back up with you. After you have your last tail weaved in and your next color added on, which should be color number 11, and on my chart, once again, that's white. Since my background is white, I have changed mine to color number 9, which is black. So since we have a starting point now, we don't have to start in the middle. We're going to start from the top and just come down. So to get started, we are going to come to the top left of that last X that we made at the top here. And we are going to come over 1. So it creates one space in between our X's. And we're going to pull through. And this is going to become our top right corner. Again, leaving enough of a tail to weave in. And then we're going to come down into our bottom left corner. And we're going to come through the top left and come down through the bottom right. And that completes our first X, and we have a space in between. All right. And now we're going to go through that bottom left. Excuse me, the bottom left of this X, which will become the top right of the X we're making. And now down here through the bottom. And then we're just going to complete that X. So we are cutting back to where we're bringing on the black yarn and action. When you have your last end weaved in, we're going to go ahead and add the next color. Again, it was chosen to be color number 11, which is white. Since my main background is white, I did change that color to my number 9 color, which is black. So to get started with this next section of the arrow, we do not have to start in the middle because we're not trying to pinpoint a starting point. So we actually can start at the top here and work our way down. Now, since we've already done this arrow once and the pattern is exactly the same, I'm going to work this next row with you, and then you are just going to repeat that same row with the next 4 remaining colors. But let's go ahead and work this row together. So we're going to come to the top of this first yellow X here, and we are going to put our needle into that top left corner, and we're going to slide over 1 like that, and that's going to put us into the top right corner of the next X that we want to make, because we're going to put a space in between these X's. But because of the direction we're going to be moving in, we're going to slide over 1 more and put our needle into what is going to be that top left corner of that X. Go ahead and pull your yarn through. Again, make sure you leave enough of a tail. And then come down into that bottom right corner. And you're going to come up into the top right corner and then to that bottom left corner, and that completes your first X. Now we're going to move down in this direction, and we're going to move over 1. So we're going to come into that bottom right corner, and we're going to go down diagonally into what is going to be the bottom right corner of this X. So when we came through, you can look at it as coming through the bottom right corner of this X or the top left corner of this X. And then again, we are going to finish off that X. And so with each X we make, we will create just one space in between each of the X's. Okay? So now we're going to do the same thing here. And we're just going to keep repeating it until we get down to that center. And this is our third X. Now we're working on the fourth one. And now we're working on the fifth one. And as you look, with each X you make, there's one space between the yellow and the black X. And now we're going to do our sixth one. And now what will look like our seventh one is going to be our middle peak here. And once we finish this one, then we're going to start our arrow going back in the opposite direction. And if you look, there's even a space still between this center peak and this center peak. So now we need to start coming back out this way. And in order to do that, we're going to go diagonally across, and then we're going to come back up into this bottom left corner here. And then you can do either way. You can come through that top left like I've done to the bottom right, or you can go the bottom right to the top left. That doesn't matter. I just want this corner to be where I can insert my needle to come back across. And we're just going to keep doing that until we've made our 6 X's, or we're back in line over here. It's a very simple kind of repeat pattern. But oh, how it dresses our blanket up. It's a beautiful afternoon here, and I do have the house opened up, and I do hear neighborhood dogs barking, so I hope they're not too loud and too rambunctious on the video. Okay, we're getting to the end here. And we have just, oh, did I do that backwards? I did. I changed the direction of my X. Shame, shame on me. On this very last one, I'll just come over here. And there we go. That finishes that color out. So I am going to go ahead and weave my ends in, grab my next color, and again I'm going to repeat the color order for you for the next 4 colors, and then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come one over, leaving a space in between, and you're going to work your way down to that peak, and then work your way back. And you're going to repeat that with all 4 colors. The next color, color number 3, is number 1. Color number 4 will be number 5. Color number 5 will be 12. And color number 6 will be 6. So we're going to add 1, 5, 12, and 6 from our color chart. And for me, that color number 1 is beige, and then I'll move into the green, the patty green, and then I will move into the purple, and then I will end with the peach. So go ahead and weave in your ends, work your next 4 colors, and I will come back and meet up with you, and we'll get ready to start the other side. So we are back after finishing this side of our arrow, and my colors are not showing up as well in the camera as they are in person, but you guys did an amazing job of picking out colors, because I absolutely love this yellow, black, beige, green, purple, peach combination. And the green and the purple are the ones that are not really standing out, but if you could just see them, hopefully later on a cup to hook conversation or something, when I hold this up, you'll be able to see those colors differently in a different light, but they are amazing. Good job, good job, good job. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've cut the other, yarn that I need to reciprocate this on this other side. And so let's go ahead and get started. For me, I ended with peach, so I am going to begin with peach. So if you need to pause this and take a few minutes to get your yarn ready, go ahead and do so, and then come on back and we'll get started. So to get started, we are going to put 2 spaces between our 2 peach X's. So I am going to come right here on this top left corner, and I am going to go over 1, and I'm going to go over 2, and that will create the 2 spaces I need in between. I'm going to go ahead and pull my yarn through, and again making sure I leave enough for weaving in. All right, and then I'm just going to come down to this bottom left corner and pull through, and then it doesn't matter, you can come from the bottom right or you can come from the top left. It doesn't matter, whichever your choice is. I just prefer to always be able to come into this bottom left to start the next X. And we're just kind of repeating that same pattern that we did over here of doing 6 X's and then 1 in the center, giving us a total of 13 X's to create the arrow. And so this is 3, we're just doing it in the opposite direction that we did those, but it's the same pattern. 4, and this makes 5, and this will be 6, Sorry. All right, so now we have our 6 X's. We're going to make one to be our center X. So this is the center X, the peak, as I call it. Yeah, I thought that looked kind of wide. I'm taking 2 X's there, or 2 spaces there. All right. Now, oh, there we go. Okay. And I just lost my yarn, so let me put it back on my needle. Okay. And now we're going to come back. Now, I wasn't thinking when I did that one that I wanted to switch my directions so that I could come in here. So I'm going to have to slide over one. And just to get that pattern the way I want, I'm going to come up here into that bottom right and go to the top. And now I can go back and do my pattern the way I want. So this will be considered 2, because we do what I call 6 X's, a peak X, which would be like really 7, and then 6 down the other side. So that's 2. And this makes our 3rd one. And we just have 3 more to go with this color. I'm trying to keep this all on camera as much as I can. Got a lot of blanket here to hold and keep out the way. So this is number 4. And number 5. And number 6. And when we finish this one, there should be 2 spaces in between our 2 peach X's. And let's take a look. All right. Let me hold it up. You can probably see it better. And indeed, I have 1 and 2. And then the last thing you want to make sure is that your top X here runs down and matches with the bottom X, and it does. So that finishes that row of that color. So we're going to take a minute to pause the video and weave our ends in. And then for me, my next color was purple, so that's what I'm going to get on my needle. And I will meet back with you in just a minute. Okay, so we're going to start with our next color, and just like we did over here, we're going to put 1 space in between. So I'm going to do this 2nd row with you, and then I'll leave you to do the 3rd through the 6th row by yourself, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th row, because it'll just be repeating the same thing. So we're going to come over to the top left corner of our peach X here, or whatever color you have. We're going to go over 1, and that's going to create our 1 space in between that we want. I'm going to go ahead and pull that through. Make sure I've got a tail. And then I am going to come right over here into this bottom right corner and pull it through. And then again, you can either go through the bottom right or the top left. It doesn't matter to complete that X. And there we have 1 space in between. All right, I'm going to come into this bottom left again and start my second X. And we're just going to keep moving diagonally over one with one space in between each of the different colored X's. And this is 3. Oops, I don't know where I think I'm going. Alrighty, and 4. Thought I dropped my tail. Alrighty, and completing that 4th one. And now 5. And 6. And then this next one is going to be the peak. If it's easier for you to count it as 7, that's fine. Just remember then that it would also be 1 for the next direction. All right, and then I'm calling this the peak. And after this, we'll start back in the next direction. And I'm going to come into this bottom on this one so I have it to go in the direction I want it to go. Because I let that be my guide. I know that that's the corner that starts the next X, so I don't have to think about it as much. I just know that it's going to be right. And so here's the first one. And again, without having to think about it, I just come into that bottom right corner and I automatically know that that's putting me where I need to be for the next X to go diagonally. And this is 2. And I have 4 more to do in this color, and then that will finish this color for this part of the arrow. All right. So this is going to complete 3. And now we're working on 4. And it might be a little bit easier for you. I'm just trying to make sure that I keep it where you can see what I'm doing. But with all this material, it's kind of hard to hold it and keep it visible. And this is 5. And we should have 1 more X after this one. All right. And 6. All right. And then you just want to make sure that you have that 1 space in between each of the X's, and we do. So then all you have to do is go ahead and weave in the ends for this color and then start the next color. So go ahead and pause the video, weave in your ends, go ahead and add color number 3, 4, 5, and 6 to finish your arrow out, and I will meet you back there. And here we are with it completely finished. Oh, I absolutely love it. So let's just take a kind of look at the whole piece, because this finishes up this section of embroidery. Oh, love our dream catcher. And then our other arrow. So starting next week, we will go back to actually crocheting. and we will soon be finishing up and getting ready to add a border to our piece. So I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been Funday Monday with Cynthia, with Cynthia's Joyful Creations, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, you know the drill. Be joyful, stay crafty in your own way, and make your own joyful creations. Bye, everyone.